Good morning. Welcome to Scottsdale Center for Spiritual Living and our first virtual church service. We have been a Center for Spiritual Living for 5 years, and we've done what we call church in a box, which is renting a facility but moving all of our things in and out each and every week. And now we're learning how to do church on the internet. And I'm glad that you are here with us and watching this video, and I hope that you find us to your liking and will come back and visit us again soon. You can also find more information about our community and where we will be meeting when all of this is over. And we are located at scottsdalecsl.org. And you can find out all about us there. So welcome to our service today, March 22nd, 2020. So our talk today is the 7 mindfulness practices for dealing with physical distancing. Well, I don't know about you, but once these guidelines came down about washing our hands and staying 3 to 6 feet apart and staying home if you're sick and social distancing, don't touch your face, all of that, my rebellious teenager came out and said, why do I need to do this? It felt like a mandate, right? And then as we deepened into this pandemic and I have begun to deepen in my spiritual practice around it and what this really means and what is this really trying to tell us, I have begun to shift my perspective. I've begun to shift my perspective around that. And it's like the founder of our teaching of the Science of Mind, Dr. Ernest Holmes, he wrote that book, and he also is the founder of Centers for Spiritual Living. And he has a quote where he said, if you could rearrange your thinking instantly, you would have an instantaneous result. If it takes a little time, don't be discouraged because you're working with a definite principle that cannot fail you. And this is another way of him telling us to change our thinking and change our lives. And I like the word rearrange because it's rearranging what we already have, not necessarily discarding what we have or have thought for new thinking, but rearranging what we currently have for a new perspective of life and how life works. So I like this idea of rearranging. Have you ever rearranged your furniture at home? Now, my mom used to do that all the time. I don't do it very often, but my mom used to do it all the time. And it was always a little different when it first happened, and we would have to get used to that. But then once we got used to it, it became normal. And that's the same way this works with our thinking. When we first start trying to change our thinking from the way we've always thought, it may feel different and unfamiliar, and we may want to go back to the old and familiar. But yet we know that the old and familiar is not necessarily achieving for us what it is we seek and desire as we're growing and expanding. So we have to rearrange that thinking. And that's what I'm talking about here, is this change in perspective that's happened for me throughout the course of those prior weeks. And I've been reading some things around the shift in perspective around this virus. And one of them really shifted me because it was the perception that the virus was here for us, not against us, that is here for a message. And many of us on the spiritual journey have had the experience of ignoring certain intuitive pushes and so forth, and ignoring until we get what we call the spiritual 2x4, which is the very serious thing that pops up that truly gets our attention. And it is suggested that perhaps the numerous fires we've been seeing, perhaps the floods and volcanoes and things that we have been seeing, these natural disasters, have been trying to get our attention as a global consciousness to pay attention more to what is happening, climate change and all of these things that haven't necessarily gotten our attention. And now suddenly we have a global pandemic, spiritual 2x4, calling us forward into a new perspective of life. a perspective where we are connecting more in our families and our communities and our friends, and slowing down to stop and smell the roses, as they say. So a shift in perspective may perhaps be in line for us, and we get the opportunity to see what emerges. So in support of us in doing this, many of us are staying home, isolating ourselves a little bit more than we may be used to. I have been reminded frequently in the last couple of weeks how introverts and extroverts experience this idea of isolation and home shelter and those sorts of things differently. And, the extroverts are going crazy wanting to get out and socialize and go to a restaurant and go to a movie and connect with people. And the introverts are, curled up in their chairs with their books, having a lovely time. So it's interesting that we each experience life differently through our own perspective. And these 7 practices, I think, will help us both, introvert or extrovert, deal with this time a little more calmly, a little more sanely, perhaps. So let's get started. The first one is mindfully keeping it normal. Mindfully keeping it normal. And this relates to trying to keep as normal of a schedule as we can. Most of us have some sort of a schedule that up until about 2 or 3 weeks ago, we were abiding by. We had a routine. And if you're working from home, it may be different. Maybe you're up early still, but rather than coffee and a shower, you go coffee and directly to work. And maybe work in your PJs for a while, maybe all day. And maybe we're avoiding the shower. Maybe we're avoiding getting dressed. Maybe we're not eating on a schedule. Maybe we're not sleeping on a schedule. Maybe if we're not working at home, we're not being creative, or we're not exercising, or we're not doing our spiritual practices. These are all things that are typically in our routines that we may have let go in this isolation time. And I'm suggesting that keeping it as normal as possible, being mindful of a normal sort of schedule for ourselves as much as it can be, will be very supportive of all of the systems in our bodies. Our sleep system, our digestive system, all of our systems, is to keep it normal, keep some sort of a normal schedule going. The second mindful practice is to mindfully connect the dots. To mindfully connect the dots. And we're the dots. And the suggestion is that we reach out to at least 3 people every day in our daily connection time, either through a email, a text, a phone call, maybe write a note card, but to reach out and connect with 3 people that you can touch base with, share your heart with. I have been delighted to receive several phone calls and texts from people across the country just checking in. And I'm doing that too, and it's my friends and family check-in. And so I'm encouraging you to do that. If we all just keep connecting to 3 people every day, that's 21 people a week per person. You can see how exponentially that it unfolds to where we're not feeling so alone. We're not feeling so isolated. I have a friend that's in California that's, completely shut down, and she's feeling very lonely. She said very lonely because she's now living alone, and she has pets, but she feels very lonely. So I encourage you to reach out and just tap in quickly if you need to, or for more extended time if you have it, with at least 3 people every day. The third is to make it mindful. Now, make it mindful, and that has to do with doing these 5 practices. We talked about these last week a little bit and showed that Google icon of doing the 5 things. And according to psychologist Dr. Azmira Maker, she says that mindfulness, which is what we're talking about here this morning, trains you to develop moment by moment awareness of mental, emotional, and physical events and states of being. Moment by moment. Now, most of us are not present in the moment by moment. our minds love to wander off, don't they? They love to go gallivanting off and into imaginations and creations of things in the future. Maybe we're worrying. Maybe we're fearful of something. Maybe we're stressing over something that happened before that we can't change, but we're still stressing over it, remembering it. So mindfulness is bringing us back present into this now moment, right here, right now. And we know through many studies that mindfulness aids in stress relief. It relieves anger, depression, and anxiety. And it also increases productivity, improves memory and attention, and boosts our overall well-being. Sounds like a good place to be right now, boosting our overall well-being. So how do we do this thing called mindfulness? How do we do the practice of mindfulness, developing that moment-by-moment awareness? Well, it's a matter of training ourselves, teaching ourselves to pay attention to everything that we're doing, to not use our autopilot as much as maybe we usually do. And the first one I'm going to suggest in these 5 areas that we're supposed to be doing right now is hand washing. And hand and foot washing and eating have been mindfulness practices for many, many years. And mindful hand washing, as I thought through the process, we go into the faucet and we mindfully turn it on to the right temperature and pressure that we want. We then mindfully take the soap that we want, and then we begin with the experience of washing our hands and paying attention to everything we're doing. Not looking in the mirror and critiquing your hair, or your makeup, or your beard, or your mustache, or whatever it is we might be looking at in the mirror, but really looking at our hands. Paying attention to the soap and the bubbles and the feeling and the texture and how many revolutions that we're doing as we wash our hands. And then the temperature of the water as it hits our hands, and the bubbles and how they begin to rinse and dissipate. And then how they begin to go down the drain, and the drain becomes, instead of bubbly water, clear water. And then as we get completely rinsed, and just that feeling of, how do I know when I'm completely rinsed? There's a feeling, right? We know. And then mindfully with our forearm maybe turning off that faucet. And then if we're using a paper towel or a cloth towel, the drying routine and how dry they need to be. Are they still a dampness to them? And crumpling and throwing away the paper towel, or rehanging the cloth towel to allow it to dry. And then the feeling of our hands at that point. But doing a mindful practice, it takes a little bit longer, it slows us down, and yet we're fully present to that hand washing experience. So that would be a mindfulness practice for us in our hand washing. The second is the cough. Many of us have a tickle in our throat. There can be numerous reasons. It's not necessarily that we're sick, and it's just our body's way of trying to moisten our throat, or maybe we've gotten choked on something, whatever that might be. It's our body's sign, isn't it? It's a symptom. And we have been instructed to cough into our sleeve as opposed to letting that fly, so to speak, and being mindful about that. Being mindful when our body is calling us to cough and to expel something, and what that means, what is it really trying to tell us, and then being mindful about how we do that so that we're protecting other people, Another is not touching our faces, and that's been fun. This was the first one that I came up with actually on the mindfulness piece, because touching our faces is something that we do more frequently than we realize. I think it was said 50 times an hour or something. We'll touch our faces. So I've been paying attention to that. I've been mindful of it. And what I realized is I'm not so mindful at home. I feel like I'm in a safe environment here. But when I go out, and it seems that whenever I go in the grocery store, that immediately I get something in my eye, my nose starts itching, I want to touch my mouth, and I catch myself. And so I've had to be mindful about that and center myself in more of a meditative practice to say, this is just your body reacting because it knows you can't touch your face, that it's reacting and calling attention to itself. It's much like meditation when we first began. we're usually distracted. Either the chatter in our brain distracts us, or our body will start acting up. I'm not comfortable, I have an itch, I have a pain, I need to cough, I'm hungry, I'm sleepy. Our body starts trying to get our attention because it's always had it, and now we're saying, no, I'm going within, I'm going into the silence. So these are the ways that our bodies interact with us when we pay attention to them. Number 4 is your personal space, keeping it at 3 feet or 6 feet. There's a couple of differing recommendations out there, but being mindful for yourself about not only stepping into someone else's space, but into stepping back out when they are stepping into yours, so that we're mindful of that space, and yet doing it with eye connectivity so that we are connected visually and not separate there, recognizing we're all connected anyway, even though it appears there's physical separation. But keeping that eye contact so that we remain connected with each other. And then the last one is mindful of our bodies and how they feel, and if they don't feel good, stay home. This has become epidemic in my world and what I see of so many people who over the years have been ill and come to work anyway, or come to an event anyway. And I don't know if that's work ethic or fear of missing out or what that is, but I've sent many people home from my office when they come in and they're just frankly too ill to be there. They're congested, they don't look well, their energy's down, they don't feel well. And it's like, rather than spread that to everyone in the office, go home and take care of yourself. And we do have technology that we can reach out. So listen to your body. Mindfully listen to your body and pay attention to what it's telling you. If it's hungry, tired, thirsty, if it just doesn't feel good, give it the rest and refreshment that it needs. Number 4 is to mindfully tap in, tune in. Tap in, tune in. And that's staying connected to your Scottsdale Center for Spiritual Living family. And we have lots of ways that we're developing right now to do that through Facebook, Facebook Live, FaceTime, Zoom, through emails for our mail listserv. We've got Lori's upcoming meditation on Tuesdays and Thursdays going forward at noon. We have our book study on Tuesday evenings. And then I've heard wonderful stories of you all reaching out and connecting with each other in community. I've been checking in with some of you. I'll be doing more of that now that I've figured out some technology issues that I needed to understand. So there's a lot of ways that we can stay connected in our community until we can be together again in person. So I highly recommend that you participate in some of that connectivity with us. And I'm delighted with our home office at Centers for Spiritual Living in Golden, Colorado, and many of the things that they're doing to support us. They're continuing with a skeleton crew to support us in the field. They're having a lot of online things available to ministers to support us. And then our New Thought musicians have come together to do concerts on Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays on the internet, free concerts. I know Gypsy Soul is going to do a concert. Melly and Z from up in Northern California we're doing a concert today, and Gypsy Soul, and Daniel Namod is doing a concert every night for the next 30 days. So there's a lot of opportunity to connect online in our global community through the power of music. And if you can tune into any of that, I invite you to do so. You can find that information on our website, scottsdalecsl.org, and see how to log in for that. The next is mindful mandala coloring. Mindful mandala coloring. This is a mandala, and this is off of our website. One of our CSL ministers has created a coloring book of these that goes along with our 12 months of spiritual messages this year for Centers for Spiritual Living. And she has gifted the community with 10 of those in PDF form that we can log in, download, and then color. And if you are familiar with mandalas, it's a Tibetan spiritual practice where the monks, you've probably seen them, where they sit on the floor, they sit at a table, and they use pipes filled with sand and colored sand, and they draw these beautiful, beautiful pictures, these beautiful mandalas of just colors and shapes and so forth. And then they're temporary and they're just brushed away. The sand is just brushed away and disposed of. So all that effort and everything, but it's about the practice. It's about the journey, not about what is produced. Your mandala, when you color it, you can keep it. You can use colored pencils or ink pencils or whatever you want to use to color those. But those are on our website. We've added a resource tab for you. Those are in there. We're going to be adding some other resources for you as well as we move forward. So that's another place to connect there. Number 6 is our spiritual practices. Now, you knew I couldn't get through a talk without mentioning our spiritual practices. And our spiritual toolbox is full for us today on all of the different tools that we can use to support ourselves moving through this time. And they, of course, include affirmations, affirmative prayer, meditation, visioning, visualization, and journaling. And rather than go into those in detail here today, I'm going to create a series of minute classes, which is 1 to 3, maybe 5-minute videos that will delve into each one of those practices to give you an overview of them, a sample of them, and then you can use and practice at home. So I'm going to create those and work with Joe on getting those published so that you can participate with that as well. And our last one is mindfully kind anyway. Mindfully kind anyway. We have a saying around here that is be kind anyway. And that came from a talk that I delivered a couple of years ago where I was talking about kindness is a choice. Kindness is a choice that we choose every day. And I'm seeing a lot of stress out there in my world and people that I bump into, and patience is down, and frustration is up, and tolerance is down, fear is up. And so we're seeing a lot of reactions that are unexpected, unpredictable, painful. So I'm inviting us to mindfully be kind, to choose to be kind. Being unkind is also a choice. As I said earlier, choosing to react instead of choosing to respond. So I'm going to invite you to consciously choose to be kind in all of your interactions, be it with your family, your spouse, your friends, your children, grandchildren, pets. You know, all of those can cause us to be stressed in stressful times. So I'm going to invite you to just choose to be kind anyway. If you're dealing with a service provider on the phone, I'm not saying that we become a doormat in any way. We simply choose to express through kindness, still insisting on our own boundaries, on our own self-care and taking care of ourselves in whatever situation we may be dealing with. But we are doing it in kindness, calm, peace, love, harmony, balance, coming at life from a spiritual perspective, being kind anyway. So I know this is a little bit of a stressful time for us, that we're feeling a little strained and burdened perhaps, a little in the unknown of not knowing what or how long or how much we're going to be dealing with. And it's coming at us from a lot of different directions. And, you know, for me personally, I will say that not having a place for us to meet right now is a little stressful, and having to get up to speed on all of the technology so quickly and to create new avenues of expressing and sharing our message, you know, not the way I would have chosen, obviously, to do it. And I also recognize this may be my 2x4. Because I've been encouraged through, you know, from our marketing people, from Joe and others in our community, to open the doors wider, if you will, from the standpoint of technology. And I have consistently said, I don't have time yet. I don't have time yet. I don't have time yet. And so here's my spiritual 2x4 that says, okay, you got time now. And you have a need and you need to fill it. So here I am on the internet streaming for us on our service time. And I'm glad that you're with us. I'm delighted to have you today. And I hope you will be with us again next week. To close out today, I want to read another passage from this thing called You from Ernest Holmes, our founder. And it's an affirmation that I want to read, but before I get to that, I want to read to you what he has shared in the beginning of it. He says, identify yourself with the object of your desire. Think of beauty and peace, and you will attract beauty and peace. Watch yourself and see if you are believing that any condition or situation, past, present, or future, can limit your use of this divine law. If you do, you are automatically causing the law to work through that limiting condition. You are conditioning the law to your own acceptance. This does not mean you are limiting the law. You are merely saying, this is what I accept of life. In other words, you are believing that the possibility of your personal experience is already set by your environment. His affirmation today. The law of good is flowing through me. I am one with the rhythm of life. There is nothing to be afraid of. There is nothing to be uncertain about. God is over all, in all, and through all. God is right where I am. I am at peace with myself. I am at peace with everyone around me. I am at peace with the world in which I live. I am at home with the divine spirit in which I am immersed. And so it is. Would you join me for an affirmative prayer as we complete this? How good it is that we come together in community to this day, recognizing that there is one power, one presence, one life, and that life is God. It is eternal. It is immortal. It is love and joy and peace and harmony and calm and balance and health and healing and intuition and inspiration and intelligence. It is all of this and so much more. So much beyond what my limited mind and thinking could ever imagine. And I know that that unimaginable infinity is in through and as me. That I am of that divine source, that I am that love and harmony and joy and wisdom and prosperity and intelligence and intuition and inspiration. I am the harmony and the joy. As I know this for myself, I know that for each one of us here today gathered, knowing that we are each a part of this divine infinite source, this presence, this oneness, this wholeness, this unity. We are in it, of it, and as it is in, through, and as each of us. And so knowing this, I speak my word for and about each of us, that we are whole, perfect, and complete in this divine manifestation, individualized and unique as we are, and that we are each expressing the divine in our own way, in our own personality and consciousness. Our own life is an expression of the divine. And I know, too, that we are whole, perfect, complete in our beingness, and that we are each healthy, that we are each inspired, that we are each creative, that we are each prosperous. For I know that we are all anchored in the divine intelligence. Most of all, I know that we are peace and we are love. I know for anyone that has anything on their heart today that they would like to lift into this prayer, that is as it is lifted, that it is blessed and that healing is revealed, that inspiration comes, that clarity is revealed through them, and that whatever needs to flow moves with ease and grace, be it prosperity, be it physical movement, be it relocation, whatever it might be, that there is movement and grace and joy and ease and peace. I speak a special word of blessing on our healthcare workers today, knowing that each is guarded, guided, and protected by the divine light of spirit, that each is sourced of the divine inspiration, intelligence, and intuition, that our scientists and medical community are inspired, uplifted, they are absolutely connected into the divine intelligence of the one mind, knowing that the cure of this is already revealed. It already exists in God, and it is revealed to and through man now, right here, right now, allowing this virus to be dissolved back into the native nothingness from whence it came. And so it is with a grateful heart and a knowing mind and a joy-filled spirit that I release this into the action of law, the activity of mind, for I know that it is already done. The word spoken is the word made manifest. And so it is. And I would invite you now that to join us in our spiritual practice of tithing, of giving to the community and to its mission. And as I was thinking this week about our local economy, I was thinking about one of my favorite restaurants, a little Italian place that's here in the neighborhood that we like to go to, and it's just a little bistro sort of place. But we really enjoy going there, and I wondered if they were still serving at least takeout. And I went to their website, and they are. And I thought I need to support them during this time. I need to do takeout at least once a week with them to support them, so that when this is all over with, and it is temporary, it is going to be over with, that they are there still strong and healthy and emerge to allow us to come together again in celebration of food and friends and the employees and the owners and the beautiful food that they prepare there. And I thought the same thing is true of our stores, my favorite stores. That most of them have an online presence, and to be connected with them through that online experience to support them. And the same is true of our spiritual center, that those of us who give online, thank you for your generosity in continuing that in support of this community. And for those who usually give in service on Sunday mornings, I invite you to go to our website, scottsdalecsl.org, and click on that donate button, and that will take you to our PayPal page. And there you can make a one-time or recurring donation to the community, and be continuing your spiritual practice and supporting us and our mission and the things that are emerging through us as community. We are not meeting physically right now, but we are doing a lot behind the scenes, and there's a lot coming forward and going to be emerging and coming through us. So I invite you to continue to support us and support this community, and we continue to support you, and we will get through this, all of us. So again, I thank you in great gratitude from the bottom of my heart for being with us today, for contributing to the community, for continuing to support each other and this community and me. I appreciate your support too. It's an interesting time that we walk through here. So thank you for being here. Next week we'll be back with our wrap up of the Divine Feminine. And we will be seeing you on Tuesday on the meditation at 11:50 to check in, noon for the meditation time with Lori, 6 to 7:30 with me in the book study. Even if you're not reading the book, join us in community and just connect with us. And then next Sunday we'll be back here with our service. So thank you. God bless you. I love you. Have a great week.